All right, so we're diving into this thousand-year blood war, but more specifically, um, the legend of Kenpachi Zaraki.
Yeah.
And we're going to unpack some truly epic battles, shocking transformations, and maybe even learn a thing or two about what it really means to be strong.
Yeah. You've provided some incredible excerpts, really chronicling Zaraki's journey through this arc, and trust me, it is a wild ride.
Wild doesn't even begin to cover it.
Yeah.
So to set the stage for listeners who maybe haven't um, visited Bleach in a little while, Soul Society is under attack by this fearsome Quincy army known as the Wandenreich.
Right.
And these are not your average baddies.
Absolutely not. No, the Wandenreich, and especially their elite Sternritter, have this terrifying ability to steal a Soul Reaper's Bankai.
Right.
Essentially, they can just rob them of their most powerful weapon. You can imagine the chaos of that, having the very essence of your strength ripped away.
I was going to say, so for context, Bankai is kind of a big deal in the Soul Society.
Huge.
This is like, it's that ultimate release of a Soul Reaper's power, like the culmination of all of their training and their spirit, and to have that stolen from you.
It's devastating.
Oh, it's got to be psychologically devastating.
Or psychologically and strategically, just a nightmare.
Oh, for sure.
But then there's Zaraki.
Because, of course, Zaraki doesn't even flinch.
Chuckles, of course.
Like, we see him casually dispatching 3 Sternritters like they were nothing.
Yeah.
Even calling them trash. Like, that's our Zaraki, always ready for a good fight.
Always. Yep.
But there's something almost, like, deeper there, though, don't you think?
100%, yeah.
With that,
on the surface, it's easy to see Zaraki as this bloodthirsty berserker, just wants to fight. But that dismissal of the Starting Ritter, I think it reveals something really crucial about his approach to battle.
okay.
He lives for the challenge, the thrill of pushing his own limits against a worthy opponent.
Right.
Anything less, well, it's just trash to him, you know?
It makes you wonder if everyone else is panicking about losing their Bankai, which, again, is like this huge deal, and Zaraki doesn't even seem phased.
Right.
What does that say about how he views strength in the first place?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it?
Right.
And it brings us to his confrontation with Yuwak, the leader of the Wandenreich.
Right.
Now, that's a fight. Zaraki, in typical fashion, charges headfirst into this fight and is utterly defeated.
I remember that being such a shock. Like, Zaraki losing.
It's like the world is ending.
Right. And to think that this is just the beginning of his trials.
It is. That's exactly right.
Right.
This defeat, it shatters his worldview, forces him to confront the reality that there are beings out there stronger than him, something he's never truly had to grapple with before. And what's even more intriguing is where this newfound awareness leads him, straight to Retsu Unohana, the captain of the 4th Division.
Unohana.
Yeah.
The healer. Now, that doesn't exactly scream Zaraki's new training buddy.
Not at all. And
Yeah.
that's where things get really interesting.
Whoa.
You see, there's a hidden history between these two, a shared past, and it's shrouded in violence.
Okay.
We learn that they have a connection going way, way back, even scarring each other in some long-forgotten encounter.
Okay, scarred each other. That's not exactly the kind of history that you'd expect from, a healer and, well, Kenpachi Zaraki. Okay, scarred each other. That's not exactly the kind of history that you'd expect from, a healer and, well, Kenpachi Zaraki.
Yeah, it speaks to the complexity of both characters, really. And it sets the stage for one of the most brutal and revelatory battles in the entire arc.
Right.
Because this isn't just training, it's a confrontation with their shared past. A bloody dance with their own inner demons.
And you got to wonder, what kind of training brings out a comment like, those who only fight with one hand without using the other for anything else don't look like they're enjoying fighting to me. I mean, those are fighting words, even from Unohana.
Oh, absolutely. And in the thick of it all, that observation, it cuts right to the heart of Zaraki's fighting style, right?
Right.
He's always relied on his raw power, his instinct, never truly mastering his swordsmanship.
So it's like he's been subconsciously holding himself back this whole time.
Yeah.
Relying on brute force when he has so much more potential.
100%. And Unohana, she sees that untapped potential, the monster waiting to be unleashed, right? Her goal isn't just to train him, it's to break him, to force him to confront his own mortality in a way he never has before.
It's almost tragic. In a way, you can sense that Unohana knows how this has to end.
Right.
Knows that she's pushing him towards a level of power that might ultimately consume him.
Yeah, it speaks to the depth of her character, her unwavering commitment to Soul Society. Even if it means sacrificing herself to unleash a force as unpredictable as Zaraki, and her death, It's not just a plot point.
Right.
It's a catalyst.
Right.
It shatters the chains he's unknowingly placed upon himself, pushing him to finally access his full potential.
Which brings us to that pivotal moment, Zaraki's Bankai.
Yeah.
But before we get there, we have to talk about his encounter with Gremi Tumo,
Right.
the stern ritter with the power of the visionary.
Yes.
Because if Unohana forced Zaraki to confront his physical limits, Gremi takes him on a whole other kind of trip, a psychological battle against the very nature of reality.
Right. Gremi is a fascinating case. He can literally turn imagination into reality, manifesting anything he can conceive. We're talking lava, meteorites, even attempting to launch Zaraki into the vacuum of space. It's almost absurd.
It's wild.
But in the context of Bleach, it works.
It's like Tite Kubo, the artist, is saying, okay, we've seen sword fights, we've seen energy blasts, but what happens when you pit a guy with a giant sword against someone who can literally will things into existence?
Totally. And it's a stroke of genius, really, because for the first time, Zaraki isn't just fighting an opponent, he's fighting against the limitations of his own perception.
Right.
If Gremi can imagine him dead, does that make it so? Where does Zaraki's indomitable will factor into a battle against imagination itself?
And you know what's even wilder? It's in the midst of this absolutely bonkers fight that Zaraki achieves something we've been waiting for. He names his Zanpakuto, his soul-cutting sword, that very essence of his power, Nozarashi.
It's a pivotal moment signifying a massive shift in his understanding of his own power.
But before we can fully unpack that realization, we're left with a gut punch of a cliffhanger. Zaraki, at the pinnacle of his strength, senses Yachiru, his lieutenant, fading away.
Oh man, talk about a roller coaster of emotions, right?
Right.
Just as Zaraki unlocks this new level of power, he's confronted with a loss that cuts deeper than any blade.
Man, that feeling when Zaraki senses Yachiru fading away, it's like, oof, the air gets sucked out of the room.
Yeah.
And something just shifted, but you're not quite sure what it all means yet.
It's such a brilliant narrative twist, honestly, because just as Zaraki reaches this new peak of power, understanding his Zanpakuto more deeply than ever, he's hit with this loss that speaks to the very core of his being.
Right.
It makes you question, does true strength lie in power or in connection?
Man, that is such a heavy question.
It really is.
But before we can even process that loss, Zaraki, now healed and with a restored arm, walks straight into another confrontation. This time it's Gerard Valkyrie. And this guy, he's something else entirely.
Oh yeah, talk about a powerhouse. Gerard is one of the most formidable stern ritters, and his ability, the miracle, makes him nearly invincible.
Okay.
Every injury just makes him stronger, more gigantic, more determined. It's almost like fighting an unstoppable force of nature.
It's a good thing Zaraki thrives on that kind of challenge. But even for him, this is like a whole new level.
Oh,
It's like Gerard keeps getting bigger and more powerful, and you're sitting there thinking, how do you even begin to fight that?
exactly. And this is where we see like the evolution of Zaraki's approach to battle, you know? He's not just a berserker anymore, though that fire is definitely still there.
Right.
He's observing, he's adapting, recognizing that brute force alone won't be enough against an opponent like Gerard.
So there's strategy involved now.
Yeah,
He's actually like thinking things through.
there are glimpses of it, absolutely, but it's not cold calculation.
Okay.
It's more like he's tapping into a deeper understanding of combat, sort of an instinctive tactical awareness that complements his raw power.
Okay, good. Because we need that build up to what happens next.
Yes.
We're talking about the visual spectacle of Zaraki achieving Bankai.
Oh, man.
The ground is shaking, the air is crackling, and you just know something huge is about to go down.
It's electric.
It is.
They can feel it.
And it does not disappoint.
No.
His appearance transforms. He's emanating this like raw primal energy, and his Zanpakuto takes on this savage new form. It's a visual representation of the monstrous power that he's finally unleashed.
It's like the monster within is let loose,
Yeah.
completely unchained.
And for a second, you think, okay, Gerard's done for.
Right.
It's like Zaraki's power is on a whole other level, but then,
But then the twist,
yes.
this immense power, it starts to backfire.
Oh, no.
It's like even Zaraki's body can barely contain it. Like this primal force is consuming him from the inside out.
It's both exhilarating and terrifying to watch.
Oh, absolutely.
On one hand, he's reached, like, the pinnacle of his strength.
Right.
But on the other, it's like he's teetering on the edge of being consumed by it.
Which brings us back to that recurring theme that we see throughout Bleach, the delicate balance between power and control.
Right.
Zaraki has always sought strength, pushing his limits to the breaking point, But with Benkai, he's reached a level where that pursuit could very well destroy him.
So as we look back on Zaraki's journey throughout the Thousand-Year Blood War, what's the takeaway here? He started out seeking out these battles, reveling in the thrill of the fight.
Hmm.
But through these really intense encounters, he's lost, he's learned, and he's unlocked this power he never knew he possessed.
And he's paid a price for that power, both
Mhm.
physically and emotionally. It makes you think about the true meaning of strength. Is it about winning every battle? Or is it about the growth, the losses, and the self-discovery that comes from facing those challenges head on?
It's a question I think we all have to grapple with in a way.
Hmm.
How far are we willing to go to achieve our goals? What sacrifices are we willing to make? And is there a point where the pursuit of power, no matter how noble the intention, can ultimately consume us? I think Zaraki's journey, with all its complexities and its contradictions, really leaves us with a lot to think about.
A lot to think about.